I got some new games. Oh, what a glorious day. Oh, get new games. The kids show you can wait.
ファミリーコンピュータの冒険ゲームバルーンファイト。ふんわり浮かんで空中戦。群がる敵と一人でファイト。二人の時は敵味方入り乱れての大激戦。山登りが楽しいゲームになったアイスクライマー。ハンマー振るって頂上征服。二人プレイが協力し合って難関突破。一人でも二人でも楽しめるファミリーコンピュータバルーンファイトアイスクライマー。
Hey everybody, welcome back. Jim here with another pickups video. I've picked up some pretty cool stuff in the past couple of months, so I thought I'd share that with you all. Before I get started, if this video is filled with the incessant buzzing of cicadas, there's not a whole lot I can do about that because it's summer, which is cicada season, and there are cicadas all around my apartment building, apparently screaming at the top of their lungs. I don't know what they're saying, but it's really annoying. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, getting started with some boxed Famicom and Super Famicom games. Recently, if I pick up something that is a cartridge game, I pretty much only want to get games that are boxed and complete and in really good shape. So I haven't been picking up that much, but what I have been getting is pretty cool. This first game, though, is really weird. I had never heard of it before, but I picked it up because it is a Capcom game. The title reads something to the effect of Pro Baseball, a Murder. At least I think that's what it says. It's a game where you play as this little guy here, and you're framed for a murder. So you walk around in what look like graphically, looks kind of like you can see on the back here. Graphically, kind of looks like an 8-bit JRPG looking game, but instead you're walking around like talking to people, collecting evidence and clues, and trying to avoid the police. Basically trying to clear your name of murder. So, really odd game. I believe this came out in 1988, the same year as Mega Man 2, and I would say it's a good thing that they ported Mega Man 2 to the States and not this, because this is kind of wacky, kind of unusual. I don't know how well this would have gone over overseas, but anyway, yeah, Pro Baseball, a Murder by Capcom, one of their more unusual 8-bit games. Next up, I believe this is reads as Valkyrie No Vulcan, or The Adventure of Valkyrie. This is one of Namco's older properties. It's essentially like a top-down action RPG style game, kind of like a Zelda game, but I think maybe more like some of the older Falcom games, like the original East games, for example, because you have your health and your magic bars, and you gain experience and level up, and you find items and magic things and all kinds of stuff. Jimmy Hoppa actually did an in-depth, really good review of this game. I'll actually go ahead and put that link to that down in the description. It's an excellent review. I'd highly recommend going check it out. But yeah, Valkyrie's Adventure, really cool game. Next up, by Hudson Soft, one of their early shooters. This is Star Force. This came out in 1985, so this is before they started making Star Soldier games. It is just a very simple, straightforward, top-down shoot 'em up, kind of like they were still kind of figuring out what they were doing with their shooters, because before, I believe they did a shooter before Star Force, and then they did this one, and then after this they started making Star Soldier and Super Star Soldier and Final Soldier, Soldier Blade, all that good stuff. So this is more like a filling out process. It's very simple, but it's still fun. And I couldn't believe, I found this in a book off, and the box is just really minty, so is everything inside of it. So for a game that's older than I am, I thought, you know, I couldn't pass this up, an old school Hudson shooter in this kind of condition. Okay, we have some Super Famicom games here. This first one on top I got because it just came out, I think, like last month. It's another new Super Famicom release. It's Shibibin Man 0, and Columbus Circle put this out. Columbus Circle has been putting out a lot of self-published Famicom games recently, like Kida Kida Star Night, and those 8-bit music generators, the little chiptune games. That's all their stuff. This was, I think, originally released as, it was almost like the Super Famicom's version of like a Sega channel or something. It was like a satellite service where you could beam in games and play them without having any cartridges. So this was originally released that way, so it didn't have a physical release. So they went ahead and came up with these nice boxes and some cartridges that were kind of bulky and hard to fit into the cartridge slot, but still fit in there either way. This game, it's actually the 4th game in the Shibiban series, I think. One of those games was released in the US on the Turbo Graphics. I believe it was called like Turbo Man or Hyperman, something like that. Basically, it was like a Mega Man knockoff game. This one is more of like an action platformer beat-em-up style game. It's really good graphics and sound, and gameplay is really fun, and it's 2 players. Since it is a brand new Super Famicom game, just like Unholy Knight, I am going to be doing a full review of this one, so keep an eye out for that. Shibiban Man 0. Next up, really love this series of games. Hadn't played this one yet though, Ys 5. I really like the old school Ys games. The more modern ones seem like they're more just like action hack and slash, you know, 3D, very mildly RPG type games. But I do like the old ones on the PC Engine and the Famicom, Super Famicom, all that. This one has the look of like it's top down like Ys 1 and 2 and 4, but instead of just like bumping into enemies, you slash at them with your sword. So it's a little more action oriented, a little more Zelda-esque, if you will. But other than that, it's still like classic Falcom RPG style. So you buy all of your equipment and you level up the same, and your health increases by itself, or it builds back up by itself if you just stop dead in your tracks and don't take any damage for a little while, unless you're in a dungeon, of course. So I need to play more into this one. I've only played it like a couple of hours so far, but so far I'm really liking it. Ys 5, that is a series that I do really like. Next up, let me read the title of this one. It is Super Gusun Oyoyo. And what this is it's basically a puzzle game where this little guy will walk back and forth as either water is coming up or there are little enemies on screen that'll come in and try to kill him. And essentially you have blocks that come down from the ceiling, and you have to link them up so that he can climb up them like stairs and make it to the exit. So there's really like a time crunch in this game. It's kind of quirky but cool. I like the graphics and sound. This is by Banpresto, who usually made pretty cool stuff. So Super Gusun Oyoyo. This is pretty cool. I like this game a lot. I'll probably end up doing a review of this one as well, just because, you know, I don't cover a whole lot of puzzle games, and this is one that I've been really enjoying. And this game is fantastic. I had heard a lot of good things about it. Finally picked up a copy when I found it for a good price. It is The Violinist of Hameln, or Hameln no Violin Hiki. Yeah, Hameln no Violin Hiki. Anyway, this is also a platformer by Enix, but I would say this is a much more slow-paced, deliberate platformer. Essentially, you have the violinist and his assistant girl. I think actually in the anime she is his slave or something like that. But essentially you're controlling him. Most of the platforming is done with him and attacking with his violin. The girl you can put into all kinds of different suits that make her useful for other things. And essentially it's almost like an abusive relationship that they have, because throughout the entire game you use her like a tool. Like if you need to step on her head to get up to a higher ledge, or put her in a suit and make her walk across the spikes while you ride on her back, or something like that. Really out of the ordinary for a 16-bit platformer, but really very fun, very good graphics and sound design as well. I'm really enjoying this game, so this is another one that I'll probably do a full review of sometime in the near future. Actually, this is another one that I think Jimmy Hoppa has covered in a review before, so if that is indeed true, I'm going to link that in the description as well, so you can go and check it out. Just a word, some people wonder why I don't put gameplay footage in my pickups videos. It's because I pick up a lot of games, and recording, footage for 20 games for just a pickups video, that's a little bit of a stretch. That's time taken away from like reviews and stuff that I could be working on, and the shortcut would be to go find someone else's footage and use that. I don't like to do that if I don't have to, so that's why there's typically not gameplay footage in my pickups videos, because it would take forever to get the footage for all of these games, and I don't want to take anybody else's if I don't have to. But anyway, that's besides the point. Violinist of Hameln, fantastic Super Famicom game, really excellent. I'd highly recommend checking that out if you can. Really good game, and those are all of the Famicom and Super Famicom games I've picked up recently.
123でゲームが変わる123 12月3日プレイステーション待て
Okay, now we have everything else that I picked up in the past couple of months. It's GameCube, PC Engine, PlayStation, PlayStation 2, and Xbox 360. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. Some very cool games in this stack. First up, for the GameCube, this is Captain Tsubasa Ogonsedai no Chosen. A while back, I had reviewed a Captain Tsubasa game for the Famicom that was developed by Tecmo, and essentially it was like a cinematic sports game. Instead of just controlling the characters like you would in a normal soccer game, you just make choices about what they do. So if they have the ball, you choose whether or not you want them to dribble or to pass or shoot, something like that. So this is basically the same kind of game, except now it's on the GameCube. It's in 3D. They can do some pretty impressive, cool cinematic sequences where, they kick the ball, they take a shot, and it looks like a dragon or fires all over the ball or something like that. So it's pretty cool. Again, not a legitimate sports game. This is almost like a game that you watch more than you play. But it is still pretty cool. I like Captain Tsubasa in general. I'll say I prefer the 8-bit games for whatever reason, but this is still pretty cool. Captain Tsubasa on the GameCube. This game, when I came across it, couldn't pass it up. It looked just way too cool. It's SD Gundam, the Gachapon Wars. And if you don't know, Gachapon are the little capsule toys that you can buy. You just put your coins in and turn it, and you get your little toys out of it. So all of the Gundam mechs in here are made to look like they're chibi little toys, and it's essentially like a strategy RPG game where you move your mechs around the grid map, but then when they come into close proximity with each other, it switches over to more of like a little arena combat type game where you run around and shoot and slash at each other with your beam sabers or beam swords, whatever they're called. So it's pretty cool. It's a mix of those two genres of games, and I believe on the back it says it does support up to 4 players, so that's pretty cool too. Anyway, SD Gundam, Gachapon Wars, very cool. Some nice little imports for the GameCube, and then this Biohazard 3 Last Escape. I really got this because I wanted to complete my Biohazard collection for the GameCube, so now I have all of the Biohazard releases for that system. This is essentially just good old-fashioned Resident Evil 3. I like it a lot. It plays really well with the GameCube controller as well. I do like the analog stick, just like my favorite version of Biohazard 2 is on the Dreamcast. I just like the way it controls. That analog stick is just like perfectly made for games that have like tank controls for whatever reason. So I like the way it controls a lot. Anyway, Biohazard 3, Last Escape, excellent game. These next 2 games are both for the PC Engine, and they're both Konami games. And, well, let's get started with this for the PC Engine CD. It is Tokimeki Memorial. Tokimeki Memorial is a series of dating sim type games by Konami. Anyone who knows me or has followed the channel for a while knows that I don't really like dating sim games at all. So why did I buy a game in a genre that I don't like? Well, for collection purposes, because with these 2 games, I now have every Konami release for the PC Engine, which was kind of accidental because I was just looking up all of their releases for the PC Engine, wanted to see if there was anything I missed or might want to pick up, and it turned out they only released, I think, 9 games for the PC Engine, which doesn't seem like a lot, and I had already had 7 of them, so I thought it would be cool to have a complete Konami set for the PC Engine. So anyway, Tokimeki Memorial, a game I don't really care for, and then a game I care for a lot. This is Salamander, also known as Life Force in North America. The PC Engine version, quite different from the Famicom and NES version. Here you do not have the traditional Gradius power-up system where you basically kind of like pick and choose from the bar at the bottom. Here, after you destroy a string of enemies, they leave behind a power-up that you pick it up, and then you have that power-up. So if you destroy a string of enemies and they leave behind an option, then you pick it up and you've got an option. So there's no more picking and choosing which power-ups you want, which you may or may not like. I do like the way this game plays though, and the graphics and sound are outstanding. Very challenging game, very good. Salamander for the PC Engine to complete my Konami PC Engine collection. Very cool. Next up, I have some PlayStation games here. This first one on top is called Tatsunoko Fight, and if you've ever played Tatsunoko vs. Capcom or seen any of the Tatsunoko anime series, then you know what these characters are. There's Gatchaman and Tekkaman and a bunch of others. So this is a 2D fighter featuring those characters, made by Takata, and you know, graphics and sound, it's all very good, but it plays kind of stiff. It's kind of a subpar fighting game, which I should have been, you know, kind of clued into that, because it was also like pretty cheap. I picked this up for like $5, and I wasn't expecting much, you know, because I hadn't heard of it. Typically, like, I play a lot of fighting games, and if a fighter is like really good, I assume I probably heard of it already. So I wasn't expecting much. I just wanted to play a fighting game with these characters because I like them a lot. And I assumed it would have some flashy super moves and everything, being based on these anime, and it does. So it's not all bad. It just is kind of a subpar fighter. Tatsunoko Fighter. Yeah, it's not like terrible, but it's not all that great either. Next up, Macross VFX 2. This game is pretty cool. It doesn't play quite like I was hoping it was gonna play, or maybe I just don't play it very well, but essentially it's Macross. So you have your jet / mech, you know, transformer type thing. You fly around, you shoot lots of stuff. So on paper it's really good. I just thought there was something that left to be desired in the execution, but I did get another game that kind of makes up for it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But Macross VFX 2, this is an excellent shooter. I'm just going to go ahead and say that before I even show what it is. I love this game. It's G Darius. I had never played G Darius before picking it up recently. I've played almost any other Darius game you could name, but for some reason, G Darius had always eluded me. I really like this game. I like the capture ball feature where you can grab enemies and use them for whatever power up, and then you can use them as a bomb as well. You can sacrifice them and blow up all kinds of stuff. I like the graphics. I like the sound design. This is an excellent game. I think it's right up there with the best of the Darius games. Like this and Darius Gaiden, I think are really, you know, close as far as which one I like more. But I do like this game a lot. G Darius, very good game. This one, again, I picked up more or less for collection purposes, because I already have the Super Famicom and Sega Saturn versions. I thought I might as well have the PlayStation version as well. It is Rockman X3, so this is the PlayStation version of Mega Man X3. As far as in-game graphics go, nothing really changed with that. The soundtrack is an arranged CD version of the original Super Famicom soundtrack, which is good in some instances, and then in other instances it's not quite so good, but still pretty cool. And then they also added in plenty of like anime cutscenes, which is pretty cool. I think this is more or less the same version that was released for PCs, but don't quote me on that because I don't really know. But it is Rockman X3, and it is pretty damn cool on the PlayStation, the Saturn, or the Super Famicom, whatever you're playing it on. It's Mega Man X3. It's really awesome. And now we come to a few PS2 games, and again we go back to Macross, and this one is just simply called the Super Dimensional Fortress Macross. I do believe it's based around Macross the movie, so there are like plenty of really cool anime cutscenes. This one I think plays better than the PS1 games. Essentially, when you're in your like jet flying missions, it plays kind of like an Ace Combat game, a little more like arcadey than an Ace Combat game. You have lots of lock-ons and you can shoot missiles off in like all directions. It looks very cool. You know, good graphics and such, and the gameplay is really fun when you're flying. When you transform into the mech, it's more of like a ground combat game, so you're running around in cities blasting robots and other kinds of things, kind of like more of a toned down version of those Earth Defense Force games. It's not like out of control crazy, everything blowing up everywhere, but it's comparable to that. You're a giant mech running around in a city blowing away other robots and stuff like that. So gameplay is fun, graphics are good, sound design is good, and at the end of the day it's Macross, and Macross kicks ass. So I do indeed like Super Dimensional Fortress Macross for the PlayStation 2. That's one I'd recommend tracking down. Not a terribly expensive game, and it is a lot of fun. These two games I'll do together just because I picked them up just because I wanted to replay them. But Persona 3 and Persona 4, two absolutely amazing RPGs by Atlus. I enjoyed these games a long time ago and ended up selling those copies and got them again. I'll just say about Atlus that I mean the gameplay in their games is always solid. You know, like the Persona games and Catherine and other stuff like the Digital Devil Saga and what was that, Raizo Kuzunoa versus the Army of Darkness. I've played all of them. They're all great. Gameplay is always super fun. I've always really enjoyed the style of Atlus games. I love their character designs. I love the designs of the environments. I love the music, the graphics. They always go. I mean, I think just, I don't know. There's something about them really like attracts me to them. It's something that's a little out of the ordinary. A big part of it is that it's not all like total like fantasy and stuff. Like I got out of the Final Fantasy series, less into like Dragon Quest than I used to be, but these had kind of like a style and a setting and characters that really drew me in. So I went ahead and rebought Persona 3 and Persona 4 to play through them again and just you know, get some more enjoyment out of them. I like these games a lot. So for the record, yes, Jim is an Atlus fan. Last but not least, I picked up another shooter for the Xbox 360. And wait a minute, what the hell am I doing? I didn't just pick up one, I picked up two. I almost forgot about this guy. He was sitting right behind me. Okay, we'll do this one first. Eschatos, which I'm reading it in Japanese, Eschatos. It's like a really weird title. I don't think that really means anything. Anyway, this is by, I believe that, is it Cute Corporation or Out Corporation? However, whatever letter this is supposed to be. It could be a Q or an O, I'm not sure. It's a bullet hell shooter, mostly top-down, sometimes isometric. I like it a lot. This is the same company that made, I think, Ginga Force, and Ginga Force is pretty damn cool too, and it does the same thing where perspective shifts from one section to the next, so it could be top-down on one section, could be isometric on the other, but this, I like it a lot. Plays really well. I think the graphics are really good, and the soundtrack is excellent too. Really good soundtrack on this one. Also, it came coupled with a couple of other games they did for the Wonder Swan Color. So there's just a couple of little bonus games to play, but Eschatos is really good. Also, this game is region free, so if you have a 360, you want to get a new shooter for it, I would recommend picking up Eschatos. I picked this up maybe a few weeks ago, and I had a lot of fun with it. This is a really good shooter. Highly recommended. And then now, last but not least, another shooter I picked up recently. This is Oda Medius Gorgeous. And you might be familiar with Oda Medius Excellent, which did get a stateside release and potentially a PAL release. I'm not 100% sure on that. Oda Medius Gorgeous, however, was only released in Japan. This is the 360 conversion. of the original Oda Medius arcade game. Doesn't play altogether different from Oda Medius Excellent, as you might assume, but I really like the presentation in this one. I think the graphics are just like obnoxiously colorful. Outstanding game. I like it a lot. There are a few different modes to play, so there's going to be an original arcade mode and an Xbox 360 mode and score attack and boss rush and all that kind of stuff. A bunch of different characters to choose from. Essentially, it's Gradius with cute little anime girls flying through the air on these like hover bike things and blowing away all kinds of crazy creatures. So in that sense, it's kind of like you know, an updated version of the old Parodius games. So if you like Gradius or Parodius, or if you played Oda Medius Excellent, Oda Medius Gorgeous, just more awesome Konami shooting action, I like it a lot. And that's it. Those are all of my pickups from, I want to say, at least like the last 2 months. So not a whole lot of games, but I did pick up a bunch of games that I have been really enjoying. Which is what I would suggest you always do when you go out to buy games, because I used to be kind of a hoarder, you know, just going out buying up every game I could find and then getting them home and, like, you know, just try this one 10 minutes, you know, no, and then this one, that one, and then they sat on the shelf, and that wasn't terribly satisfying. So I've been trying to go for games that I think I'm going to play and enjoy, and I think my collecting is more enjoyable as a result of that. I now have games in my collection that I really enjoy playing versus just having games that just sit on the shelf. Obviously, the games sit on the shelf, but I've pared it down enough to where I can pull any of them off the shelf and enjoy playing them. Anyway, everybody, thank you for watching. Again, if you sat through, I always say this, if you sat through the whole pickups video, because let's be real, pickups videos can be kind of dry, kind of boring. Speaking of dry, it is the cicada season after all. So yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought about the games featured in this video. Are there some that you would like to see reviews of? There are some I'm planning to do reviews for, but if you saw something that, you know, tickled your fancy, let me know and maybe I can fit it into the schedule somewhere. Anyway, everybody, thank you for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.